Many of us grow up believing that family means love, protection, and support. But what happens when that trust is shattered? When the very people who should lift you up are the ones trying to tear you down? This is the story of Cassie, a girl who had everything taken from her. Not by fate, but by the people closest to her. Betrayed, abandoned, and left to fight alone. She refused to give up. Through heartbreak, struggle, and resilience, she found her own way. Because sometimes the only person you can truly rely on is yourself. I know this story will help those who feel lost, reminding them that setbacks don't define their future and as well make you improve on your English. Sit back, enjoy, and learn as I narrate to you the tales of Cassie. My name is Cassie. I am 20 years old but still stay with my parents. I used to believe I had a happy family. Not perfect, but happy enough. My father remarried when I was young, after my mother passed away. I never truly understood what it meant back then. I just knew that Evelyn, my stepmother, would be part of my life now. She seemed nice at first, maybe a little cold, but she always smiled in front of my father. So I thought she was just strict. Her daughter, Clara, was her world, and I had learned to accept that. It was always Clara needs this, or Clara deserves that. I was just there. But I never minded too much. I focused on my studies, on my future. I was determined to make something of myself. Then, the day our exam results were released, everything changed. I still remember the moment I saw my score distinctions across the board. My dream of becoming a doctor felt so close, so real. My hands trembled as I held the paper, my heart racing with excitement. This was it. All the sleepless nights, all the missed outings with friends, all the hours spent buried in textbooks, it had all paid off. I turned to Clara, eager to celebrate. But the look on her face told me everything before she even said a word. Her eyes were wide with disbelief, her mouth slightly open as she stared at her own results. I peeked at the paper in her hands. She had failed. Silence stretched between us before Evelyn stepped forward. She took Clara's results, scanning the page, her expression unreadable. Then she turned to me, and for the first time, I saw something dark flicker in her eyes. She smiled, but it was tight, forced. "I'm happy for you, Cassie," she said. Such a smart girl. But I knew she wasn't happy at all. At first, nothing seemed to change. Evelyn still smiled. Clara still avoided me. My father, oblivious to the tension in the house, congratulated me and told me how proud he was. But the small things started adding up. Evelyn suddenly needed help with everything: laundry, dishes, cooking. Clara, of course, was too stressed to do anything. I started getting the smaller portions at dinner, and somehow I was always the one getting blamed when things went wrong. A missing earring, my fault. A broken plate, my fault. Still, I told myself it didn't matter. Soon, I would be in university, far away from all of this. I had applied to the best medical schools, confident that at least one of them would accept me. Then the rejection emails started arriving one by one. Every university I had applied to sent the same response. We regret to inform you. At first, I thought it was a mistake. I had the grades, the extracurriculars, everything they were looking for. It didn't make sense. The days passed in a blur. My chest felt heavy, my mind racing with possibilities. Had I done something wrong? Was I not as good as I thought? University was opening in a week, and I had nowhere to go. I couldn't take it anymore. I needed answers. The next morning, I made a decision. I left the house early, heading to one of the universities I had applied to. The moment I stepped onto campus, my stomach twisted with unease. This was supposed to be my future. But instead of walking through these halls as a student, I was here begging for an explanation. After waiting in a long queue, I finally sat in front of an admissions officer. My heart pounded as I placed my results in front of her. I don't understand why my application was rejected, I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. I have the grades. She held up a hand to stop me and started typing on her computer. A minute passed. Then she frowned. It says here that your sponsor failed to complete the payment process. My breath caught. Sponsor. Yes. It says your stepmother agreed to handle the financial part of your application, but never followed through. My entire body went cold. Evelyn, she had promised to pay. My father trusted her. I trusted her, and she let me believe I wasn't good enough. While she sat back and watched me suffer, I stormed home, my hands shaking with rage. The moment I walked through the door, I spotted her in the living room, sipping tea like nothing had happened. You stole my future, I said, my voice trembling. She raised an eyebrow, feigning innocence. Whatever are you talking about, Cassie? You never paid the university. That's why I was rejected. I turned to my father, my last hope. Dad, she lied. She said she'd handle the payments, but she didn't. My father sighed, rubbing his temples. Cassie, maybe it's best if you stay home for a year. Learn to be patient. I stared at him, my heart breaking. Evelyn had one. That night, I cried myself to sleep, clutching a picture of my mother. I hated Evelyn. I hated Clara. I hated my father for believing her over me. I wanted to leave, but I had no job, no money, nowhere to go. The next morning, I packed a small bag and walked out of the house. I searched for hours before finally finding a job waitressing at a small cafe. The work was exhausting, the pay barely enough, but I had no choice. For the next year, I worked tirelessly, saving every penny. I rented a tiny apartment, barely more than a room, but it was mine. And when I finally had enough, I enrolled in university. I had lost a year, but I had gained something more valuable, my independence. University was everything I dreamed it would be. Difficult, exhausting, but mine. And then I met John. He was kind, funny, patient. We fell in love slowly, then all at once. When he proposed, I felt happiness I hadn't known in years. But when he suggested meeting my family, my heart clenched. I don't want to see them, I admitted. Not after what they did. But John was persistent. You don't have to forgive them, Cassie. Just let them see how far you've come. And so, after years of avoiding them, I returned home. What I found was a broken house. Clara had failed her exams over and over. The pressure from Evelyn had become too much. And one day, she ran away with a biker, leaving nothing but a note. Evelyn had lost everything. My father looked older, guilt in his eyes. "Cassie," he said, voice heavy with regret. "I'm sorry." But it was too late. 5 years later, I stood in front of the hospital, my white coat resting on my shoulders. "Dr. Cassie." I had made it. John and I were married now, living a life of love and peace, something I never had growing up. I visited my father occasionally, but the wounds Evelyn left behind had never fully healed. Evelyn, once so proud and controlling, now lived alone. Clara was gone, lost to a world she never truly fit into. And me, I was free, because no matter what they did to me, I still won. John was waiting for me by the car, his usual easy smile on his face. He had been my rock through it all, patient in ways I never knew a person could be. I loved him more than I thought I was capable of loving anyone. But love wasn't easy for me. For a long time, I struggled with trust, not just in relationships, but in everything. I questioned kindness, hesitated before accepting help. If someone was nice to me, I wondered why. What did they want? What was their motive? John saw that. He never pushed, never asked for more than I could give, but I knew it hurt him, and that hurt me. I wanted to trust him the way he deserved. I wanted to let him in completely. I wanted to trust him the way he deserved. I wanted to let him in completely. I started therapy. It wasn't easy. The first few sessions, I barely spoke. I felt ridiculous, like my problems weren't big enough to warrant professional help. But my therapist, Dr. Morgan, didn't let me brush it off. She saw through me in ways that were both terrifying and comforting. "You grew up in survival mode, Cassie," she had told me. "When the people who were supposed to love and protect you failed, you learned to rely only on yourself. That's not a flaw. That's how you survived. But now, you don't have to just survive. You get to live. That word stuck with me. It took time, but I learned to separate the past from the present. I learned that John wasn't Evelyn, that not everyone had an agenda, that I didn't have to constantly be on guard. One night, after months of therapy, I found myself staring at John as he slept beside me. The way his chest rose and fell in a steady rhythm. The way his hand instinctively reached for mine even in sleep. And for the first time in my life, I let go of the fear. "I trust you," I whispered. The words felt foreign on my tongue, but they were real. John didn't hear me, but that didn't matter. I had finally taken a step forward. Rebuilding my relationship with my father was complicated. For years, I had told myself that I didn't need him, that his betrayal was unforgivable. He had chosen Evelyn over me, believed her lies without hesitation. I had suffered, and he had let it happen. But then time passed, and with it came a strange realization. He had been manipulated. He had been blind, yes, but he wasn't cruel. Evelyn had controlled him just as much as she had controlled Clara when she lost her grip on Clara. She had tightened her hold on him instead. The first time I visited, he looked older, tired. Regret clung to him like a shadow. "Cassie," he had said, almost hesitant. I don't know where to start. I had so many things I wanted to say, so many words I had held back for years. But looking at him, I didn't feel anger anymore, just sadness. So I sat down and we talked. It wasn't an instant fix. There were still wounds between us, wounds that time alone couldn't heal. But we tried. Slowly, carefully, we rebuilt something that had been broken for too long. Now, he visited often. He adored John, and I could see the pain in his eyes whenever he realized how much of my life he had missed. But he was here now, and that mattered. Evelyn, I never saw her again. After Clara ran away, she lost everything she had fought so hard to control. The last I heard, she had moved to a different town, living alone. I didn't care. She was part of my past, but she had no place in my future. I glanced at John as he drove, the city lights flickering outside the window. My hand rested on my stomach, a small smile playing on my lips. I was happy. I had a career, a husband who loved me, a father who was trying, and a future ahead of me. And in just a few months, we would welcome our first child. I had once thought my past had ruined me, that I would always carry the weight of what Evelyn had done. But I was wrong, because no matter what she had done, no matter how hard she had tried to break me, I made it. To everyone watching this, life isn't fair. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love and support, you are the very ones who try to break you. Sometimes, no matter how hard you work, obstacles will be thrown in your path. It's easy to feel defeated, to believe that the world is against you. But here's the truth. You are stronger than your circumstances. No one can take away your determination. No one can steal your dreams unless you let them. It won't be easy. You will struggle. You will fall. You will wonder if it's even worth it. But every setback, every hardship is shaping you into the person you're meant to be. Keep going. Even when they tell you that you can't. Even when the odds are stacked against you. Even when you feel like giving up. Because one day you'll look back and realize that every challenge, every moment of pain led you to something greater. Success isn't about where you come from, it's about where you're going. And you're going to win. Believe in yourself. Fight for yourself, because no one else will do it for you. And when you finally make it, remember you earned it. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment about what you think of this story. Have you ever been in the same situation?